Welcome to my mock draft 3.0 of the 2023 NFL season. This mock draft is going to be, I think, the last one before the actual draft season is coming to a close, and we can talk about what happened in the draft instead of trying to predict what happened in the draft. So this is going to be mock draft 3.0 for me. Last call essentially for myself, and I'm going to give you a full 3-round mock draft rather than what I typically do with just a one mock draft. I only have one trade in here. You can't really do too many without getting into the weeds, and I just can't do that myself. But I think this is a really good mock draft. The first round, for sure, I think it kind of shakes things up a little bit, and this is going to be more predictive than what I've done before, rather than doing what I would do. You're going to see that right away with a couple of these picks. But we're going to get into this video. Before we do, I do want to ask you guys if you could drop a like real quick. Drop that thumbs up button. It helps us out. Gives us more views, all that kind of good stuff. And we're going to start building up this channel more and more, and we want you guys to be there with us. So before I get into this video, drop a like. If you can comment something real quick for us too, definitely helps us out with the algorithm. And subscribe if you haven't already. You get more of our content, and that's a win-win in my book. And let's do it. All right, so in this mock draft, like I said before, this is something that I've already gone through, so I'm not going to be making picks right, as we're talking right now. These are picks that I made before, and that way we can go by these a little bit quicker and not spend too much time of me just sitting there looking around and trying to figure things out. So I went in through and did this a little bit beforehand, dressed it up to make it look nice for you guys, and hopefully you guys enjoy this. Let me know what you think about the presentation of it and all that kind of stuff. It's, took me a little bit to do it through Google Slides, to be honest, but I think it looks all right. And, it kind of makes it simple to show you guys. But again, like I said, this is predictive. This isn't saying I'm going to be right for sure. I don't think I'm going to be right. I don't think anyone is going to be right when it comes to these mock drafts. It's just a great exercise to talk about, what could happen, where these players kind of fit value-wise, things like that. So, you can hate on me. I'm definitely going to get some Eagles fan out there saying whatever I did is wrong. I welcome that. But definitely leave comments if you have any thoughts, that kind of thing. And look out for the mock draft stream that we're going to do. This stream, I'm going to be posting a video about the rules behind it, but we're going to be giving some money out to y'all, just to give you a thank you for watching and thank you for being on our stream. Come mock draft, or sorry, the actual draft. Just so used to say mock draft now. But yeah, I think this is going to be really fun. I'm going to start off here though with the first overall pick. This first overall pick, I don't think should be a surprise anymore. I think Bryce Young is the guy for the Panthers here. The main reason why I think he just has a lot of the it factor that you ask any coach in the NFL, you must have to survive and everything like that. I think he has it more than anyone else. And I think the coaching staff there is willing to make that, bet essentially that they can work with Bryce Young. Even PJ Walker there had, a few good games, and he's nowhere the quarterback of what Bryce Young is. So I think this is a good pick for them. I think this is what happens game day. This next one here is going to be a little bit more interesting as far as kind of what the predictions are, but I'm predicting that the Houston Texans are going to be taking Anthony Richardson. I think that they would rather trade down and hopefully get Anthony Richardson, but I just don't think anyone's really going to be wanting to trade up to get them, because I just don't think there's a whole lot of value, to paying too much essentially to get a quarterback that isn't Bryce Young at this point. So with that being said, that's what I think the Texans are going to be doing. The next one here is Will Anderson, being the edge to the Arizona Cardinals. If they stay here at this pick, again, I'm not trading every single pick. It would be, it would make sense for them to trade down, but here I'm sticking with Will Anderson. I think he's the most ready to go. I don't think the Cardinals have a whole lot of ability to just say, oh, yeah, let's take a project right now. I think Will Anderson gives them the most impact right away, and that's what I would do. I think that's what they're going to do too. Number 4, I do think if CJ Stroud and Will Levis on the board, I could very well see them taking Will Levis at this point. And not to say that I hate CJ Stroud. If you listen to me, I actually have CJ Stroud as my number 1 guy. Not my no, yeah, my number 1 guy. So this isn't me picking because obviously you would see CJ Stroud here. And I just see Will Levis as the guy that the Colts want because he has the size, he's got that run ability, he's got the strength, and he has a lot of really good tape. It's just he's had some injuries, he's had some growing pains, and I don't think that the Colts are going to shy away from that all that much. I think this guy has been on their board, since 2021, essentially. So that's what I think will happen. We'll see though. I'm sure I'm going to get some people commenting on it. But number 5 here, I have Jalen Carter, defensive tackle, going to the Seahawks. I think his talent far outweighs kind of the mistakes that he has made, and I think he'll tell you that they're mistakes. And it's just one of those things that a lot of people find themselves in. I don't think it makes him a bad person, and I think Jalen Carter is going to find a lot of support with the Seattle Seahawks. And I feel like this is just a great pairing with a great need, everything along it. I think this is a great pick for the Seattle Seahawks. Next here is Devon Witherspoon. Also, shout out Witherspoon. I think I should say there. Shout out to my phone for making these sweet cutouts of these players. It took me like 2 seconds to do, so I was super happy about that. I think they turned out pretty good too. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, Devon Witherspoon, probably the best cornerback in this draft. I really like Christian Gonzalez myself, but the Detroit Lions play style, I think they're going to really like Witherspoon, and they're going to go with Devon here. So I'm going to chalk up Devon. I think this is one of the most commonly put picks other than Will Anderson to the Cardinals, but I really like that. And that brings us to the Raiders. A lot of people might say, oh, they're not going to skip on CJ Stroud. But I could see them very well skipping on CJ Stroud. They got Jimmy G, who obviously isn't, some gatekeeper that's going to keep away any rookie that comes in there. And I think Jimmy G is, he's a guy that's there for right now. But I just don't see the Raiders and their coaching staff and what they want to do pairing very well with CJ Stroud. I think they're going to skip on CJ Stroud. And, at this point, I would expect teams to start trading up for CJ Stroud, because that's what I would do. I think a lot of teams would start making the calls here. But for the Raiders, they haven't had this kind of guy at cornerback for a long time. And obviously, cornerback's not the biggest position. It's not the an edge quarterback or left tackle. But where they have good enough players at quarterback and left tackle, and I mean Max Crosby is a beast on the edge. Christian Gonzalez can take another position and be another great player almost immediately. I think he's going to be really good. But I think this is a good pick for the Raiders, kind of where I see them going. Some people might think no, but honestly, it kind of makes sense to me. So I like Christian Gonzalez there. This next pick is Jackson Smith and Jigba to the Atlanta Falcons. I actually made this pick on a mock draft with Absolutely and Drop Balls Pod on Twitter. Both of those guys have Twitter out there, and we were just going through a mock draft, and Jackson Smith and Jigba came out to me and has made sense ever since then. And this is what I think they could very well do, because they have Kyle Pitts, they have Drake London. They don't really have anyone else other than a few running backs that are decent, right? So I feel like adding someone that can complement Drake London extremely well and even almost become a better wide receiver by the end of the year, I think the Atlanta Falcons would have some decent targets for Desmond Ridder to continue to grow with. So Atlanta Falcons with Jackson Smith and Jigba would not be the worst thing in the world, and I think it could very well happen. Next one here, Paris Johnson Jr. This one, to me, has made sense for a long time. Something that the Chicago Bears just need to do. Also, it pairs Justin Fields with a former teammate. And a lot of things that you want in a left tackle, Paris Johnson has. He's just got some refinement to do, some things to work on. I don't think it's the end of the world with where he's at, and he could very well get up to speed pretty quick in the NFL. Number 10, this might be the spiciest one so far. Bijan Robinson, running back from Texas to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's starting to make more sense, and I hate it. I say that because I have been so anti-running back in the first round. I even had, Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs falling out of the first round in a lot of my first, just running through mock drafts and stuff like that. But the more I sat there and thought about it, Bijan Robinson could very well be the pick here, and I think it'd be a smart decision, mainly because you have a great run game established. You got offensive linemen established. You got defense established, and now you have a couple good running backs, right? Not hating on any of those guys, but Bijan could come in there and be special. And to me, a running back of his caliber at the cost of what the 10th overall pick would be, I think is a very good deal. Number 11, we got Peter Skoronski, offensive tackle, Northwestern. This is the guy that entered the first year, this last year, the first mock drafts of this draft class. Peter Skoronski was always the number one offensive tackle, and he kind of stayed that way for the most part. I think there's about 2 or 3 offensive tackles that most people have as the first guy. And Peter Skoronski took a few lumps in the draft process because people were saying he's just not built to be a tackle. But it, kind of isn't built so much to be a guard either. So he's this odd guy. But honestly, with the Titans, they need some offensive linemen. I know that they have Andre Dillard and Nicholas Petit-Ferrier. But I think Peter Skoronski can take someone's job. I think he could take one of those guys' job. More likely, it would be Andre Dillard's job. And if not, he could play guard for a while too. It's not the end of the world either. I think Peter Skoronski ends up being one of the best tackles for the rookie year. I just have Paris Johnson ending up better overall. And that's why I have that there. Next one here is Myles Murphy to the Houston Texans. I don't think you get a defensive-minded head coach in DeMeco Ryans and go offense right away, especially where wide receivers and other positions tend to be fruitful in rounds 2 through 4. Where edge, you kind of have to get the top guys. You got to get the blue chips. And the more I watch Myles Murphy, the more I understand the hype around him. Just the size, speed, athleticism, and all the tools that he has already. He would make an impact right away for him, and I think they can start building that defensive line around what Myles Murphy does. And hopefully in the future get a guy to pair with him on the other side. So I think this would be a good pick for him. There's some other edges on the board, but this is where I think the Texans go. Next one here is Tyree Wilson for the New York Jets. And the reason why I have him here and not at the Texans or maybe even further up is he still, doesn't have it all together yet. He is older. He took a while to fully blossom. And, that's going to start making people feel like, okay, maybe we don't put our biggest chip forward on this guy and maybe we take someone more safe. Where the Jets are right now, they're in a position that they have a lot of great players in positions already. They don't have a whole lot of true needs. And so when you can put Tyree Wilson on there, he's not a starter right away, but he can just be another guy coming for the quarterback at whatever point in the game. It's scary to have this guy on the defensive line. So I think they can work with him. I think they eventually get him to be even better than what he is now. And you got a monster for the next, hopefully 10 years. Moving on, I got the New England Patriots taking Broderick Jones, offensive tackle out of Georgia. This is that other guy that a lot of people have as their offensive tackle number 1. It's a lot of, the flavor of it all. So Broderick Jones, I think, has shown that he has been a good tackle for a long time, and he can play strong in the passing game, run game, whatever you want him to do. And I think he fits the mold of what the Patriots want to do very well. And I can see them taking this guy mainly because of the Georgia connection. I think he plays very good for the position, and they have a need there. So I can see them very much taking Roderick Jones. Next one here is Kalijah Cansey. I think he pairs very good with Devontae Wyatt, where Devontae Wyatt does a little bit of everything. Kalijah Cansey is going to be more of your pass rushing defensive interior player, however you want to say it. But he has such an ability to put himself where he needs to be that I think he will eventually be an every down guy. He is smaller, but I think he can get there. And if he doesn't at least get to, being a 3 or 4 down rushing defensive interior, I think he can make a big enough impact where if you take him in the first round, you're not going to lose out on the value of what could have been, quote unquote. So I like Kalijah Cansey here. Next one is a trade. This is the only trade that I have, and to me it makes sense. If it's not for CJ Stroud, I do think it makes sense for the Vikings to trade up in front of the Buccaneers to take whatever it is, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, or maybe Hendon Hooker if both of those guys are gone. And I think this is a good enough leap for the Commanders, who were originally at the spot, to fall down. I think it's to 23 and, take some other players that they might need. I didn't really get into what the trade compensation would be. Obviously, they would switch the first rounds this year. And later on in the mock draft, I have the Commanders taking a player that the Vikings would taking a player that the Commanders would have taken. So we'll cover that when we get to it. It's just hard to make all those different changes without having trades available on PFF. But I like CJ Stroud a lot. I like him a lot, and I think if the Vikings get him here, it's an absolute steal. I don't know if he actually even falls this far. But I'm starting to think that he might fall. I feel like teams are getting to a point where they're just really not sure about Ohio State quarterbacks. And like you've seen it with Lamar Jackson, you've seen it with even Justin Fields. They were projected really high, and then it's just like, oh no, this player is getting skipped on. And I just wonder if CJ Stroud is that guy this year, because I think the Colts have their eyes locked on Will Levis. I hope it's CJ Stroud. But I wonder, is CJ Stroud actually going to just start to slide somehow? Because a lot of people had him as the number 1 overall pick just a few months ago. But what if he just starts to not, go that early? Like, what if he just starts to slide? Like, I think that the Vikings would trade up for him if this is how things go. And what a perfect quarterback to replace Kirk Cousins. Not because they play similarly, but I think CJ Stroud won't have the pressure of like, I got to go in right away and be the one to take them to the Super Bowl. I feel like that's what the Vikings might expect. But he could come in after this year, kind of give Kirk Cousins his flowers. And then he has Justin Jefferson, a great weapon. He has Dalvin Cook. They also, were they the ones that got Hawkinson? I'm blanking on that one because I know Hawkinson got traded in the division. Maybe it was him. But yeah, I think the Vikings could make a lot of use out of CJ Stroud, and I don't think they would have to trade up too much to get to this point. And I think this would just be a great pick. Darnell Wright would be a great offensive tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I see them as having a need here and also valuing this guy higher than the rest of the players on the board, and that's why I took him here. It would be great to throw in Joey Porter Jr. or someone else, but the Steelers don't run the ball very well. They need to start doing something on that offensive line, and Darnell Wright at 17 is a great pick. This one is brought upon by the Lions losing 2 wide receivers to the gambling scandal. Jordan Addison being here, though, provides one, Amon-Ra, he doesn't have to have all the attention. Jordan Addison might even take more attention at some points. But you give a balanced attack on the Detroit Lions. You got a great offensive coordinator. I honestly, I think this is a very sneaky pick that they take a wide receiver here, especially because of the gambling issues. Jameson Williams will be out for a couple games, but then just imagine you have Amon Ra, Jordan Addison, and you have Jameson Williams fully healthy, ready to go. That's a great young core that can do a lot of damage. Next one here is Hendon Hooker going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got leapfrogged by the Vikings, and so they respond by taking Hendon Hooker, which actually fits very well for what they're doing. They got Baker Mayfield right now, and that gives Hendon Hooker time to come back fully healthy off of his injury, not have a whole lot of expectations, and he can go in with players like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin already there, already there, and they can start building around him. Get it that that first round, 5th year option. I think is crucial for Hendon Hooker, because if you don't, you're really only getting 3 years with him. So I really like Hendon Hooker, and I feel like this would be a great pick. Next one might be a reach. Some people might say that, but the value of what John Michael Schmitz can bring to the Seahawks, I feel like outweighs a lot of the other picks here. Now you can chew my ear off. That's fine. Drop it in the comments if you do. But John Michael Schmitz is probably the center number 1 for most people. Some might say Luke Whippler or someone else. We can go in that conversation later. But John Michael Schmitz came to the board for me. I think this makes a lot of sense for the Seahawks. You get someone that you can solidify your offensive line basically entirely, something that they haven't done in a long time, and start worrying about the other rounds on weapons and other positions that kind of make more sense in the later rounds. But I like John Michael Schmitz here. It's probably the highest that most people have seen him, but I think this is one of those situations like Cole Strange where you might say, oh, I don't know if I would do that, but I think it works. Next here is Deonte Banks, cornerback out of Maryland for the Los Angeles Chargers. Most people are going to say, why not wide receiver? Why not Zay Flowers? Trust me, there's going to be wide receivers down the road. But Deonte Banks here makes something possible, and that is moving on from J.C. Jackson, which I think the Chargers should do. I think you could get a good trade out of him, at least dump his salary somewhere and just move on. I just don't think that was the right move. I think you guys need to get out of that contract in whatever ways possible. And taking Deonte Banks, maybe you can trade J.C. Jackson and get more draft capital this year. If not, you can get it for next year. The next one here is Joey Porter Jr., cornerback out of Penn State. This is probably one of my favorite mock-ups. I think the Steelers and the Ravens are very good spots for Joey Porter Jr. His family pedigree speaks for itself, but his play also speaks for itself too. He can make a lot of plays. There are things he can work on. That's, he's not the most clean prospect ever, but I think the Ravens will like him a lot more than other teams. Dalton Kincaid, this is the fruit of trading down. You could have taken him a lot earlier. You take him now, you add in a great tight end that can stretch the field, basically be a slot receiver that's got a big frame. And, you get more draft capital down the road. And since you have a new owner, you probably have a lot of staff changing around. It's best to just collect picks and get things going. And I think that's a good pick too. Obviously, I made all these picks, so they should all be good picks, right? Michael Mayer, tight end, Notre Dame. This one just makes a lot of sense. You get Evan Ingram, obviously, is the tight end there. He's on a 1-year deal, I think, unless they already did a contract extension. But Michael Mayer here is someone that will make a lot of things easier for Trevor Lawrence. I think he made a lot of things easier for the number of quarterbacks that went through Notre Dame, and he always produced for him. And I think he can produce right away for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This one's Osiris Torrance. He is the OG offensive guard out of Florida. He's a big dude, but he fits kind of that need that they've had for a while of, kind of just slotting in as a guard and taking whatever position Glowinski isn't taking, and eventually, to kind of just be the guard for the Giants for a while. And I feel like this is a good pick because I would assume that the Cowboys are also in on Osiris Torrance a little bit. So you kind of steal a little bit from your rivals, but you also get someone that is solid for what you need. Obviously, it would be fun to do wide receiver here, but I think Osiris Torrance kind of is that top echelon of a very thin offensive guard class. And he's played that position. You're not converting a tackle into guard. You get a you got a guard. All right, this is a pick that I have battled for a while. Mozzie Smith, defensive tackle. Honestly, I just think he provides a lot of what the Cowboys need is a true nose tackle, defensive tackle that can stop the run. Obviously, not a perfect prospect in my eyes. Obviously, if he was, he would have gotten a lot higher. But I think he provides something that the Cowboys would extremely need. And I think it's better than what some of these other draft prospects would do. And he will be a guy there for a while. Nolan Smith, edge here at Georgia. I was scrolling through and I saw that Von Miller's contract is kind of getting to the point where they're going to have to restructure it somehow. But even if they don't, he's old. And who better to stick Nolan Smith next to than Von Miller? Nolan Smith is student of the game, high character guy. And obviously, Von Miller doesn't have to teach him anything. But Nolan Smith is going to pick up things. He's going to, pick apart Von Miller's mind. And he's going to become Von Miller. I really like this pick. Brian Breesy, defensive tackle out of Clemson for the Bengals here. This is one where the Bengals don't have a whole lot of true needs. So you take someone that has shown that he's back and healthy, but before he was injured, he showed some very impressive technique, just ability to just disrupt. And I think he will be back a lot faster than people assume. He could go a lot higher than this, but I think the Bengals, obviously they have the defensive interior pretty well fixed, but this gives them another guy. Those older defensive tackles can take a few more snaps off. This one I really like. Obviously, Alvin Kamara may or may not be suspended. I forget if that's already taken place yet. But either way, Alvin Kamara has been just taking the load for the New Orleans Saints. Quick pause there. And Jahmyr Gibbs can come in, not necessarily be the exact same thing as Alvin Kamara, but you put both of these guys on the same field at the same time, or you can have them trade off and do whatever, and they're going to make a huge amount of impact. Jahmyr Gibbs would make a huge impact for the Saints right away. They need a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball, and I think this adds to their game a lot. And then here we got the Philadelphia Eagles taking Lucas Van Ness. This is after they have taken Bijan Robinson. One thing about Lucas Van Ness that everyone probably knows is he's young, new to the position. Not new to the position, but still growing in the position. But he is just far advanced for his age and his size, his athleticism, and everything. And you put that in an Eagles uniform, you're going to get a lot out of him. And last one here for the first round is Zay Flowers out of Boston College. It's a little unfair giving Patrick Mahomes Zay Flowers, and that's exactly why they would take him. The reason Zay Flowers is falling, I feel like other teams have more needs elsewhere, but the Chiefs have a lot of odds and ends at the wide receiver position after Tyreek Hill is gone. Zay Flowers isn't Tyreek Hill. I'm not saying that. Obviously, they're different players. But you give him someone that can work in a lot of different levels on the field. He can produce right away. And just given the offensive mind there with Andy Reid, with Patrick Mahomes, this is the prime spot for Zay Flowers. And I think they get a lot out of him as well. So that's my first round. It's going to be different than everyone else's first rounds. I understand that. But just give me your comments, right? Like, give me your thoughts, opinions on there. I'm trying to be predictive. I'm trying to be, someone that's not just throwing out just sparky, spicy trades picks just for the heck of it. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm looking at this with a different mindset of what I normally do. I'm trying to go into it and say, what is this team possibly going to do? And this is what I landed upon. So, like I said, throw your comments if you think this is too spicy, if I've gone too far, if I need to be stopped. Let me know. But other than that, I'm going to end this video and we're going to start with the second and third round.